저런 학대를 당해도 저래 또 불쌍해.
We have a very special episode that is part of the adoption series of the Stop Yulin podcast. With me is Annmarie Puzelli, who first heard about the dog cat me trade back in early of 2014. She was captivated by the issue and wanted to help make a difference. She made the decision to adopt Smiley in November of that year from Nami of Save Korean Dogs. Since then, she went on to adopt two more survivors, Justice, a Bernese Mountain dog from Last Chance for Korean Dogs, and more recently, in 2018, she adopted Kane, a dog rescued from a Korean dog meat farm that was shut down by Kane Global Rescue. So we are very lucky to have Annmarie share with us not only one adoption story, but three. Unfortunately, Smiley did pass away in 2018 from multiple health complications, but he died knowing that he was very much loved and cared for, something that was made only possible by the love and devotion of Annmarie. Smiley was one of the first ambassadors of the dog meat trade in the United States, and he changed Annmarie's life forever. He clearly made an impact on the people who were fortunate enough to cross his path. So welcome to the show, Annmarie.
Thank you for that Smiley introduction.
Yes, I know Smiley. We spoke about Smiley, and he's a dog that changed many things for you, many things for many people. So we're going to definitely be talking about Smiley today. He's remembered very fondly from you, your family, and a lot of the community. So I'm so grateful that you accepted my invitation, because I think adoption is an aspect of the cause that is so important. And, if these dogs are not adopted out, they cannot rescue more dogs. And so a role like yours is super important in the solution. So we are obviously going to talk about your three dogs that were rescued from the dog me trade today. But also, I always like to have an idea of how you first heard about the cause, the dog me trade. I believe you said it was in 2014, but how did you hear about it?
Well, social media. I think that social media really brought this to the forefront, because before social media, I didn't know about it. And I don't even remember what life was like not knowing about it, because once I knew about it, it was like something that it stuck in my head like all the time. So I saw it in probably early 2014. I saw a soy dog. And, I immediately became a donor. I saw a Facebook post, and, I fast forward to about October of 2014, I saw a post from Nami. And it was a picture of Smiley, and it was his story, and she was looking for an adopter. So I instantly connected. I mean, I had seen things before, but this was like, this is the dog. Because I had talked to my husband about it before when I learned about the trade, that I would love to do that, but I was a little leery, plus I had other dogs, and it was always a concern bringing a dog from another country. Like that's a big deal. For many issues, So,
absolutely.
But I kind of had accepted by that point that I knew I had to do something. Didn't know before then if I would adopt or not. But I wound up taking the picture, the computer to my husband, and I showed him, and I said, look at this dog, read the story and let me know what you think. And he said, let's get him.
Oh, wow. He was on board.
He already knew that this was something I wanted. We talked about it. And so I messaged Nami, and our next communication
on
was
Facebook?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, on
okay.
Facebook Messenger.
Were you were already on social media, so Facebook, I guess at the time, I
Yeah,
don't know if there was
yeah, it was
Instagram.
Facebook.
I'm not even
Hmm.
sure when Instagram came in the picture. But mostly
Yeah,
Facebook, eh?
yeah, it was Facebook. I probably commented and asked her if he was available, and we started like that. But then we started communicating in Messenger, and then email. Because I let her know I wanted to adopt him. So,
Right.
but I did have some questions that I emailed her. About disease,
Yeah.
about trauma, the transport. I knew nothing about this.
No,
And
it's like brand new for you. Like that
yeah,
same
it
year, you
was.
decided to adopt a dog. You hear about it in early of 2014, and in October, you make a decision,
Yeah.
a life-changing decision, you know?
Exactly, and it was not like me because I'm usually I always stay in the safe zone, and I,
And you
you know,
plan things ahead.
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
this was like, but like I said, deep down I knew. So I was just pushing myself to do this. It was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah. It,
So,
it spoke to you, and that picture of Smiley really resonated with you. Like it hit you, you
oh
know,
my God,
right
yes.
straight at the heart. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even explain it. I mean, till this
Wow.
day, I get chills telling the story.
So you
Um,
never had heard about the Yulin Dog Meat Festival before that? You had, like, 'cause
I
that's how I heard about it.
No,
Um,
I had not yet heard about that.
oh
I
wow.
I learned about that, through Nami, and then when it started becoming more of an issue here in the US, there was more awareness. You would see that all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so really for me, the day to day, every day that this goes on, it's like I thought about it every day. Like, how many dogs are getting tortured and killed today? How many
Yeah.
dogs are getting tortured and killed today? So, Yulin Festival, that's a festival that consists of a few days, but this is 24/7. This is
Yes, that's so important. And when I first heard about the Yulin Dog Meat Festival, it was like hard to believe that this was still happening. We were like, I think I heard about it in 2018,
mhm.
and I thought it was a bad joke. I had a hard time believing that this would
Yeah,
be happening. It's not just the fact that they would eat dogs, because I had heard about that. You know, some people
right.
would tell me in China they eat dogs and cats. But I was like, okay. But when you see
Yeah,
the pictures and the violence, for me, that's what shocked me. Of course,
me
like most
too.
of us, it was
Yeah,
the brute violence, and like, why are these people barbarically torturing these dogs, and for what purpose, to what end? And so I started looking into it, and I
mhm.
discovered, sadly, that it's a 365-day a year
Yeah.
situation, and it takes the lives about, in China alone, it takes about the lives of 10 million cats, dogs, and 4 million cats. And I see you have your little companion there. Are you able to tilt the?
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my God,
justice.
I can recognize him, and this is Justice, right?
Justice, look over here. Yes, this is justice.
Oh my God, and he was rescued in what year again?
Um,
Oh, hello, Justice. You're so beautiful.
2018. Kane was 2019.
He's that's what I love about dogs, you know, like they
Yeah.
don't realize the size of them. They're
Oh,
like crawling up in your lap like they're a
yeah,
little
he
baby.
doesn't. He doesn't.
Oh my
Definitely.
God.
But all right. So can you get down now, please? Thank you. You're a
Oh
good
my
boy.
God, Justice, you are beautiful, gorgeous. This is a Bernese Mountain
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So
Mhm.
beautiful.
And Kane is under the table by my feet.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll try to get a glimpse of him
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
But they were both adopted in 2018.
No,
Just
Kane was in 19.
Oh,
That's
2019.
yeah.
Okay. So I made a
Mhm.
little mistake in that. Okay, so
That's
it was
okay.
during Canine Global Rescue, their trip in 2019, that
Correct.
they were
April
able to.
30th was the day that Kane was rescued, 2019, and then he arrived at July 2nd to my home. Well, we went and picked them up at the airport.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's it's going to be a historical trip because it's being captured in a movie called Dog War. That trip they did in 2019,
Yeah.
Canine Global Rescue,
That's
they're
right.
the focus of a film called Dog War. And I have the good news that it's almost at the point that it's going to be released.
I know.
And
That's great.
so exciting. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you hear about this, you make a very quick, impulsive decision to adopt a Smiley in 2014. But let's be clear that you were already involved in animal rescue at the time because you were working for Guardians of Rescue in New York. Is that correct?
Yeah, Guardians of Rescue is a rescue organization in the U.S. And they also worked with my local shelter here. So that was like their physical shelter. So yeah, I would help with local stuff, fundraisers, bringing dogs food, for people that couldn't afford.
Looking after them.
Walking dogs, they also, they worked with reuniting soldiers with their dogs from Afghanistan for a period of time. So that was one of my first exciting things that I did. It was like going to Disney World for me. I was invited to go to the airport to pick up dogs from Afghanistan. And it was like, it was really another life-changing moment. I mean, dogs they always make such an impression on us, I feel like, special
connection.
Connections, which I did connect with those dogs. I would walk them. And
these dogs had gone to war. They were like canine, officers, if you will. Is that the case?
Well, they were actually, the soldiers would just reach out to Guardians of Rescue and say they bonded with a dog,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so
While they were in Afghanistan. Okay, I get it.
They were reunited. So there was a little bit of knowledge I had about, dogs coming from other, countries.
From a foreign country.
Yeah, but I mostly did local stuff with them. At the time, they weren't involved with the dog meat trade.
Yeah.
Until I got Smiley. That was
a wake-up call, I guess.
Yeah. Then,
you had started you started working as a volunteer for Gardens of Rescue in what year? Like, how long ago?
That was probably about 2000. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact year. I'm going to guess here. 12?
Okay, so about 2 years.
So I worked with them, and then I got involved in 2000, 2015, like January is when we, the founder of Guardians, agreed to do this, and I would
open up an international division and help dogs from the meat trade. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, after we talked about it, and then he talked to Nami some. We worked out something where we wanted to help her, and of course, she wanted the help too. So
she wanted to get her dogs adopted, and you were a great help for that. And so you were heading that international division, as we talked about that.
Yeah.
That's a big responsibility, but you had already a connection with Nami.
Yeah.
And during that time, I'm assuming you probably reached out to other nonprofits in Korea and Asia.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the other ones that you were helping?
In South Korea?
Or in Asia in general, your job was to bring these dogs to the United States to be adopted, right?
Yeah. Well, we did that through Nami.
Okay. It was strictly with Safe Korean Dogs. Okay.
Yeah, we helped her for about a year and a half. We worked with her, and we took I'm going to say maybe like 60 dogs from her, or, and before they came, I would find adopters by posting on Facebook. And that's one good thing Facebook is good for, right?
Absolutely. Great way to connect.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would reach out to rescue organizations in the U.S. and see if anyone would be interested in working through guardians and taking dogs and from South Korea and adopting them out. And 99% of the people I spoke to were all for it. They were honored to do so. And it was always a very special experience because they had never done it before. And it was like this, it's just really an awesome feeling to be involved instead of crying on the couch because you're so overwhelmed with sadness, and that's what I used to do when I first found out. It was, what can I do? I'm so far away. That's it. But there are things you can do. I mean, I learned that,
Well, you're a fine example of that. And I think part of the reason why I started the podcast is I wanted to, first of all, learn about the issue, because there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet. And I still had so many questions that were left unanswered. Like I looked on the internet, but often like there's not a clear answer to what I'm wondering, like why the torture? How long has this been going on? What's the history? Every country is unique. South Korea is a good example because they are the only country in the world that systematically farms dogs. They breed and farm dogs for their meat. And that's very unique. Whereas China and other countries, it's more strays and stolen pets that make up the trade. And so all these things, I was very curious about, like, if we want to find a solution, it's so important to understand the problem, right? And so also another aspect of the podcast is to find, is to expose ways that we can help, because often we feel powerless, and we're on this side of the ocean, we're like 7,000 miles away, and we're like, what can we really do? And you've done many of these things: volunteer, adopt, foster, share, educate people, educate your community. And great example today that we have with you. And so your husband is obviously, your family must have been always in love with dogs. You already had dogs in your home.
Yeah.
So you've loved animals your whole life. Can we say that?
Yes, I would definitely say that. Going back to when I was a kid, I mean, I was an animal lover.
Yeah, you had dogs growing up?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Wow.
I did. And my family, we did this together. I could not do this alone. Like, it was like, it's a big responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's a commitment. And I couldn't do it unless my family was on board. And they were.
Thank God for that, because I am in a situation where I learned about this cause. I'm very implicated in animal rights, but my husband, not so much. It's not that he doesn't love animals, but he is not, he doesn't want to see the cruelty. He doesn't want to hear about it. He's just like, I'm in my bubble. I don't want to hear about it. And my goal in life is to adopt a survivor like you did, because I cannot think of a better way of helping, first of all, and of having that feeling that you're transforming a life. You're showing love and affection to a dog that's never known anything but suffering. Yeah. And obviously we have a lot of dogs here in my country of Canada that are victims of cruelty. But, because this cause has hit home so much, I would think it would be a great thing to do. And my husband, he's not exactly on board. So, I have to work on him. But it's great that your family was supportive of this decision of yours.
I am very thankful for that. because it is my passion. It's not their passion.
Yeah.
They're, animal lovers, but
Not to the same degree.
yeah, as far as the activity goes, but they love the dogs, were all committed to the dogs. They understood, the situation and how we had to accept them, and just have patience. And yeah, they've been great. They're in love with my dogs now.
Oh, great.
Our dogs. I said my dogs.
I wanted to just discuss the three dogs separately. So we would start with Smiley. And so you told me that you first heard about Smiley through a Facebook post from Nami Kim.
Yeah.
So you made the decision very quickly to adopt him. And how was the adoption process, like from the moment you asked if he was available to the time that he was actually flown to you? How did that work out? Like, what was the time frame like? What, was the communication very good and transparent and clear, and you were mainly communicating with Nami Kim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. She talked English, so
She speaks English.
she speaks English, and she, we were on the phone or emailing, communicating. So, and also, another rescue was involved actually with the dogs coming here, because 4 dogs came. Smiley was one of them.
Okay.
So during our communication with Nami and myself, she had said that a New York rescue reached out to her in the interim called Posh Pets.
Yes.
And I had never heard of them. They're more like closer to the city,
Okay.
So she said that they wanted to take some dogs. So she said we could put Smiley with that group. So she connected me and this woman. So the timing was unbelievable. It was great because I was thinking I was doing this on my own.
Yeah.
Whether it's a volunteer that would help or just cargo, my dog would just fly here, cargo. So Linda with Posh Pets helped a lot, so I started talking to her and we arranged it, and this wasn't new to her. So she helped out a lot.
She had done this before.
Yeah, she had done this, I want to say from Thailand she took dogs.
From
But
Soy
never-
Dog, maybe?
Yeah, maybe, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
It would
was.
make sense because they're the primary rescue.
It was. So she said, I'd be more than happy to include Smiley and, the group that's coming. And so, yeah, because at the time, Guardians, they didn't even know, because this happened so fast, they didn't even know that I had, committed to Smiley and was doing this until it was pretty much done. Then I spoke to Guardians and told him about it. But as far as the help that was available to me, I appreciated it, and I took her up on that. So that's how we transported Smiley through that rescue.
Wow. So you inquired in October, and by the time you saw Smiley, how long, was it the same year?
It might have been September. It might have been September that I first, I know I told you October, but I think it was more like September with Smiley, and then November 18th is when he actually came to New York.
Wow.
So, yeah.
At JFK Airport, Posh Rescue? Is that what they're called?
It's Posh Pets Rescue.
Posh Pets. So they were there in charge of, were you there at the airport with them? Or?
No, I didn't. I didn't go to the airport. I went to the rescue.
Okay.
When we got back. So,
Right. And so he arrived with 3 others from Nami Kim on November 18th of 2014. You bring back your little Smiley, and you had prepared your family. When you said you asked Nami Kim about the health questions, because it turns out that Smiley, you told me he had heartworm disease, but Nami was not aware of it.
No, she wasn't. She wasn't aware. So if she was, he wouldn't have even been able to fly, because they don't like to fly.
No, that's right.
But he did it. And yes, so I found that out when I took him to the vet. when I got them. Yeah, they
Oh.
came up positive.
Because
So
I'm not familiar with heartworm disease, but I did look it up quickly, and it says it can take 6 to 7 months
yeah,
for it to show signs in a dog. So it's possible that obviously Nami didn't know.
yeah.
But if she, or can you tell us a little bit more about that disease and its consequences on the health, and if there's any treatment?
Well, there is treatment, and it's a very serious treatment. It takes about 6 months to, you retest the dog after 6 months. But the dogs, they get very tired when they have heartworm. They actually get bit by a mosquito, and that's how they get the heartworm.
Yeah.
Um, and it could cause blood clots in the lungs, the heart, arteries, and
It's a parasite, right? It affects the lungs. It's kind of a parasite.
yeah, well, yeah. But there are worms,
Yeah,
adult worms
yeah.
that actually, go around the heart. It's really disgusting, but um, so it's a dangerous disease, and it affects them in a negative way. Some dogs, recover and they're great. Some dogs have scar tissue on their lungs. They have, like Smiley got from that. He developed chronic bronchitis that
Yeah.
was induced by the heartworm. Um, and I found that out after he was tested negative. He developed a cough, and we did some testing where they went down and into the lungs and took a biopsy to see if there was a parasite or something, even from Korea. It could have been something.
Yeah.
Um, but it wound up being induced chronic bronchitis from the heartworm. But the heartworm, it's injections. It's 2 injections over a course of a couple of days, and they have to stay very still, during the whole time that the worms are dying off.
Not easy. Sometimes some dogs, you say they're fatigued. That's one of the side
Yeah.
effects. But some dogs might not be as fatigued, so it might be hard to keep
Yeah.
them still.
Yeah, Smiley was kind of, he wasn't an active dog. He just kind of wanted to relax all the time.
Oh,
Um,
what a cutie.
so it wasn't really difficult keeping Smiley,
Still.
Yeah.
Just come and sleep, Smiley.
He liked to sleep,
But
yeah.
I guess the winter would make it exacerbate the
Yeah.
cough and, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
every winter it got worse. So for that, luckily I have a holistic vet along with my conventional vet.
Yeah.
And my holistic vet recommended a naturally derived cortisone,
Oh,
instead
yes.
of prednisone, because prednisone, you can't really, it's not good for them,
Right.
especially long term.
Got some really bad side effects, yeah.
Yeah. So he was put on this naturally derived cortisone.
From yams? I think you told
Yeah, from yams. Isn't that amazing? See,
That
so
is
I learned
amazing.
that too. Yeah, thank God though for that,
Yeah.
because he did have to be on it for long term.
That's it.
It still does have side effects, but not as bad, and it takes longer,
Right.
So, and he had to take an inhaler every day too. I had to get like this, it's a chamber, and there's a thing that you attach to the dog's nose and puff, and
How
I
many
would
times a day? Like,
twice a day.
oh, wow.
Twice a day. So every winter it got worse. It got a little better in the summer, but he would cough every day. It was just that in the winter it got worse.
Oh, wow.
So, in December of 2018, when Smiley passed away, it was due to this illness that he had. And, it had gotten progressively worse over some weeks, and eventually nothing works anymore.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, at that point, he would have been 12 years old, about.
About
About
11 or 12, yeah, because you never know exactly how
no,
old.
you never know, but so yeah, so I guess with the age too, it didn't help him, and with time, our own immune system like starts to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
affected and impacted. So unfortunately, Smiley did pass away, but you had 4 years with him, like pretty much 4 years, so.
Yeah.
And he changed a lot of things, and I was curious. What was his story? Like, how did she find him? Was he rescued from a farm?
No, he was actually a stolen pet. Many of these dogs that become victim of the dog meat trade are stolen pets. So, yeah, he was adopted out to a couple, and next door to the couple happened to live a volunteer that worked for Nami. So one day he heard the dog screaming next door, and he intervened. It was an older man that lived there with the couple. I don't know the relation between the couple and the older man, but the older man had a pot of water boiling ready to put Smiley into.
Oh my God.
And he was bloody and he was beaten and he needed surgery and he lost an eye.
Oh my God. He was like extremely beaten, like
Yeah,
to a
yeah. He
pulp.
was close to, yeah, so he was very close to death, and it made me want to show him love even more, you know.
Absolutely. That's horrific.
So yes, of course it is. It's
And that is actually typical in Korea. There's this mentality, and not just Korea; it's across Asia, really. This idea that the more suffering the dog endures before death, the more medicinal the meat will be.
yeah,
Especially in older men in South Korea, they really consume it to increase virility often.
yeah,
They have all these misguided beliefs that it'll keep them cool during the hot summer days, keep them warm during winter. It does all sorts of miracle things, this dog meat. But it's really what got me from the get-go when I heard this cause is really the torture aspect of the trade. And it's unique
absolutely.
to the dog cat meat trade. It's not something that is prevalent in other industries, although we all know there are cases of cows being mistreated and pigs and so on. I
Yeah,
mean, the meat industry itself is cruel, but this torture, the deliberate torture, is really unique to the dog cat meat trade, and that is why I'm so adamant about ending it. And like we're all fighting to put an end to this atrocity. It's
yeah,
an atrocity. It
yes.
should never be taking place. But I spoke to someone who did, Kevin Leahy. He did farm investigations. He investigated dog meat farms in South Korea for almost 2 years. He visited everything from small scale farms to mid-sized to the larger ones. And the small scale farms, that is where you see a lot of the old, the beating. The dogs are beaten to death. Often they are strangled. They are thrown in a pot of boiling water, often while still alive. And that is much more prevalent on smaller scale farms, whereas the larger farms, it's more systematic. It's more like get the dog, killed, and the method of slaughter is electrocution. So they will put a prog in the dog's mouth and they get electrocuted that way. I don't know what's worse. I mean, I am assuming the beating's got to be worse, but being electrocuted is very, very painful. So
Yeah, it's all around
it's all
very
horrible.
evil practice.
It's
Very,
hard to
very
say
evil.
what's crueler than the next. It's really horrible, all of it.
Yeah,
So I can understand that story, mixed with the picture, it would compel you to want to adopt Smiley.
yes,
And
it
so,
is.
what a beautiful thing you did, and you were courageous because you were the first one. Like the first one in your family and your surroundings, and the United States, really, to adopt a dog from South Korea. So.
Yeah, and eventually, Smiley, he was the domino effect for motivating Nami to send thousands of dogs to the U.S.
Wow.
So yeah, it was an amazing legacy that Smiley has left. For many people who knew him, Nami, I mean, you know, he was very special to Nami.
Oh my
And
God. I,
he symbolized a lot,
yeah,
Smiley.
he really started it all in many ways, and we thank him, you know, and we thank you for
I
bringing
do.
a spotlight on this, and you've informed your community, you've informed your family, and all this because of Smiley, you know, that
Yeah.
one picture,
Yeah.
and that one story that would break anyone's heart.
Yeah.
So, because he was one of the first ambassadors of the cause, really, in the United States, you were one of the first ones to adopt one. You were asked to do interviews about the cause, you know, with Smiley. I mean, did it solicit some newspaper, no,
No,
like media?
no, it didn't.
But the
Yeah.
community around you, they probably heard about the cause through you and Smiley, right? So,
Oh yeah, I told everybody. I was happy to tell everybody, you know, that met Smiley, even
yeah.
family members. You know, a lot of family members don't know about the
Oh,
dog meat
absolutely
thing.
not. Yeah.
And yeah, so I shared his story with everybody that I met. I mean,
Wow. And what was the reaction like when you were walking with Smiley and people would hear that he was a dog meat trade survivor? Like, what's the reaction? Back then, it was even less known, right?
I know.
Yeah.
It was shock. You know, people would say, "Oh my God,"
It's
you
horrible.
know, yeah, some people would not know about it, and some people would say, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. You know, that's terrible. That's a nice thing that you did." You know,
Yeah.
but I would always get into a conversation with people about it, and that was another part of
Your
adopting a
advocacy.
dog is
Yeah.
that you get to tell more people, and so on and so on,
Yeah.
and that's how people either get involved or adopt themselves. So it's like
Yeah.
a domino effect of positive results, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
He was
so
an advocate, an ambassador, like we say, for the cause. So that was
definitely.
amazing. And so you already had like how many dogs at your home when you introduced Smiley?
I had a big German Shepherd named Teddy who
Oh,
passed away.
yeah, we have pictures of Teddy, so we're going to
Yeah,
be showing them.
he's a gentle giant. He was, and I had Ace, who was a flat-coated retriever. Both very big dogs, but
Yeah.
I wasn't concerned about them because of the way they were. Like, I was more concerned about how Smiley would react to them. You
Okay.
know, because I didn't
Yeah.
know Smiley. Um,
So
you
they
know,
were gentle giants.
yeah, my dogs were gentle giants. I wasn't concerned about them. And Smiley did do his, you know, introduction growl when we came in, you know.
Yeah.
But he let them know, you know, he didn't want to be bothered, which he didn't. He really never wanted to be bothered to play or, you know.
Was he a specific breed or he was a mix, I guess?
He
Smiley?
was a Brittany Spaniel mix. That's
Ah.
what I was told. Whether he was yeah, he was mixed. I don't know with what. I don't know. But yeah. So
And the first time you brought him home, what was like, how did you make the introduction with your other dogs? Like, did you have to keep them at bay or for a certain
well,
time?
yeah, I mean, I didn't want them to get too close,
Yeah.
because again, I was having his, you know, some tests done. I had just brought him from the vet, so I wanted to make sure he didn't have anything,
Yeah.
you know. So I let them meet, you know, and again, because I knew how my dogs were, I brought Smiley right in my house. If my dogs are not good with other dogs, we do it outside, like on the street, on neutral ground, you know, but I
Yeah.
knew it wouldn't be a problem. But, you
Okay.
know, I let them meet quick, and then I kind of separated them and kept it like that for like a week.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
Yeah, just
They
before I
get
got
used to
the
the
results.
scent of the new dog and like, the idea of having a new family member.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it was new to me. That was my first one, so
Yeah.
I was extra cautious. I
Yeah.
mean, now when I brought Justice home, I had Smiley at the time, and I didn't do that. I just let them. I had more experience.
Yeah, and you felt it was safe and there was
Yeah,
not going to
well,
be a
because
problem.
he was young, and
Yeah.
he was a puppy, and Smiley was not. I was not concerned about. So yeah, I just I in my backyard.
A big, big furry family.
Yeah, yeah,
And can we just quickly, Teddy, it's Teddy, right? The German
yeah,
Shepherd? And
yeah.
Ace. Do they come from a cruelty background? Like, did you adopt them from a local shelter? What was their story?
Well, Teddy, we adopted from people that no longer wanted to take care of him because he had skin issues and allergies and stuff. So I have a friend who does German Shepherd Rescue who had adopted out already two other German Shepherds to us over the years. So she brought him to our attention, and I figured out what his allergies were. I got him the appropriate help,
Yeah.
thanks to the holistic vet, and he was fine. The allergies were taken care of.
Okay. At this point, I have to ask you, can we talk about the name of your vet, your holistic vet? Because it might be a great
Oh yeah.
resource for others.
Yes, it's Smith Ridge Vet in Salem, New York. Smith
Okay.
Ridge.
Okay, and we're going to write that in the podcast. So if
Yes,
anyone
I
wants to have an
appreciate that.
alternative way of treating your dog
Yes. Thank
holistically,
you. Thank you. Yes, because she
yeah.
helped us a lot. That
And
with different options.
you were referred to her as it's a she?
Yeah, my doctor is a she,
It's
Doctor.
a she. It's a woman. Okay. We're talking about animals,
That's
but
gross talk.
okay. And you were referred to her, or you just discovered her on your own?
I did. I discovered her by trying to figure out Teddy's problem. I came across Dr. Martin Goldstein. He's got a book, The Nature. Shoot, I forget the name of it, but
Martin Goldstein. Okay, he's a
Martin
veterinarian.
Goldstein.
Okay.
And it talked about this was actually his vet's office. He doesn't work there anymore. He retired, but I wound up calling them, having a phone interview with them, and it's really that was another great change that I am so fortunate, to
Yes.
have, because I learned a lot about vaccinations, and that's a whole nother story. But it's just good to know. So I'm glad that you asked for the name.
Yes, and is it? It's not necessarily more costly than a regular vet, right?
No,
Uh,
no,
And
no.
so it might be actually less expensive depending on the treatment that they recommend. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I mean, we
Yeah.
all know, like, I spend a lot of money at my vet's office. I have two cats, and let me tell you, between
Oh,
the
I know.
food, between that and the, during the summer, the tick treatments and the vaccinations, I mean, yeah, like a lot of
Yeah,
money goes there.
yeah, I know.
So that's great. And so now, if we, I just want to see if I have any other questions for Smiley because, so yeah, so you basically, the whole family, I mean, I imagine you have children at home?
Well, my sons are older.
Okay. So when
So
you
when
brought Smiley, they were living with you or they were not living at home?
one of my sons,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, he was about 24, 23 at the time.
And did he take to Smiley immediately?
Smiley was My son John was Smiley's second mom. I always said that because
Yes.
he had to do, he would do the inhaler for me, give him medicine if I wasn't home at the time. And Smiley loved him. So,
Good
yeah, my
energy.
animal lover. Huh?
Good energy because often I feel animals have a sixth sense. They definitely feel energy even more than us.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
so when somebody has good, vibes,
Yeah.
then the animal usually is not, like gonna back away.
Exactly.
It's gonna,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So at this point, let's talk about Justice, because that was your second dog meat trade survivor that you adopted. And how did you hear about him and his story?
Well, we
And this
had,
was in 2018 at this point, so like 4 years later, I suppose.
yes.
Yeah.
So we had lost Teddy to cancer, unfortunately, in February of 2018. So my husband decided he wanted a Bernese Mountain Dog. We both did, really, because our neighbor has one, and we had never seen that dog before that. And I was like, that's
Gorgeous
such a
dog. Yeah.
it was like a bear. I didn't even know what kind of dog it was.
I know.
But anyway, we said, why don't we try to find a rescue, like a Bernese Mountain Dog. So I tried. It's very hard. It's really not
They're
easy.
not the most popular in shelters.
No. But I would help a rescue. I became, of course, being involved in it, I got to know some Korean rescues.
Yeah.
In Korea, and I would help them out by sharing posts to try to get dogs adopted and whatever. So I would do that for Last Chance for Korean Dogs.
Okay.
So she did not know that we were looking for a dog. I never told her, and we really weren't looking. It was kind of like, if I see one, we'll rescue it.
Yeah.
The Bernese dog.
You weren't like actively seeking.
Yeah, and because my husband wanted that. This was the first time he ever really. I mean, I'm usually the one who says, I want that.
Yeah. No,
but
he took the initiative.
So one day, I got a message from the woman Sonae, who works with Last Chance for Korean Dogs.
Okay.
I got a message, and it was a picture of a Bernese Mountain Dog puppy that was like 2 months old.
Oh my God.
And he said, would you like to adopt him? And I never mentioned to her anything about adopting even. That's Justice right now.
He's like, we're talking about me. Hello.
Yeah. So I was very taken back.
Yeah.
And I showed my husband the picture, and
That is weird.
he was like, did you tell her? And I said, no, I didn't. And I never even saw a Bernese Mountain Dog in Korea.
So it was put out in the universe, and the universe answered you.
Well, whatever it was, God knew what we wanted.
Yeah.
He knew we wanted to rescue one. And, it kind of fell in my lap,
Yes.
So, we had
sure, I'll adopt him.
we had a short discussion, and I said to her, sure, we'll adopt him. And so that's how that happened. And we got, Justice came with a flight volunteer that Last Chance for Korean Dogs coordinated.
Organized. And do you know what his story was? Like, how did they find him? Was he on a farm or?
No, he wasn't on a farm. They rescued him from actually a shelter that they work with, but where he came from was what they called like a pet shop. And it was kind of like a puppy store, but not for, pets. Obviously, they were being sold, for meat, these stores,
Oh, my God,
I've
really?
never heard of before, like a pet shop, a pet store that has puppies, but,
People would buy them for their meat? Oh, my God.
I was told that this place where he was rescued from, there was many deceased dogs. And it was a very bad scene. I saw pictures. She sent me pictures, and Justice was one of like 2, I believe, that were alive in there.
Oh my
So
God.
that was the circumstances he was rescued from, and then
Wow.
So the thing is, as you know, big dogs are meat dogs, right?
Yeah.
So Justice is about 120 pounds right now.
He would have been a prime candidate, yeah.
Yeah, Justice would have ended up in the hands of somebody who wanted him for meat. So, big dogs need homes in the U.S. Big dogs,
Absolutely,
you know.
because they're not really safe in Korea.
No.
Even though the pet industry has really picked up quite a bit in Korea and other parts of Asia like Vietnam, it's become
Yeah.
quite a big lucrative business, if you
Yeah.
will. But
Yeah.
it's mostly smaller dogs, as I understand, in South Korea as well, like more like smaller pets.
You mean that they have as pets?
Yes, yes, like the
Yeah.
Korean
Yeah.
population that adopt a dog to keep as a pet, it's usually a
They're
smaller
small.
breed, yeah.
Yeah.
So the big dogs, like the Tosas especially, those are
Yeah.
very much part of the meat industry,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Big dogs.
Yeah. And the Jindo.
Even the Jindo, which is really ironic because I think the Jindo is supposed to be the
Yeah.
mascot of South Korea, and they're
Isn't that a
slaughtering it.
contrast? Isn't that a contrast? I
Uh,
mean,
Big
you know,
contrast.
yeah.
But no dog is really safe. And
No.
so you heard about Justin, he was just a puppy, like just a few months old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so you quickly, the flight was pretty quickly organized and,
Well, he had to be a certain age to travel, so we had to wait, when we had to wait to find a flight volunteer. So maybe like 3 months later is when he came to New York.
wow,
I think it was May, sometime in May.
2018.
Yes.
And this
Yeah.
time around, were you at the airport or you met them at the rescue shelter? Or?
No, we went to the airport. We went to the airport, and the flight volunteer gave us our dog,
Wow.
So,
Oh, yes, because it was a flight volunteer. It was not like
yeah.
an organization here. Okay.
Right, right. So
Ah,
he
wow.
was just basically handed off, and I had to sign papers.
Wow. And was
So,
he really afraid? I mean, I can imagine traveling on an airplane. It's a little bit,
um, I'm sure he was, but he didn't show it. He was a
no?
puppy, and he's a very happy dog. I mean,
Wow.
he's the happiest dog I've ever met in my life.
Well, we
I
just saw him earlier and he looks
Yeah,
pretty happy. Of course,
yeah,
that's after years of spending his time with you, but still, some dogs, depending, even dogs rescued from the meat trade, some dogs are very traumatized, and
oh yeah,
it might
yeah.
be for life. And other
Yeah.
dogs, they really bounce back very quickly. It really depends.
Well, Justice, he's a happy dog, but he does have some it takes him a while to warm up to men.
Ah,
Um,
mm,
you know,
not
and
surprising.
yeah, so and also like he doesn't like if he's laying down and you walk by him too close, like he like freaks out like a little bit, like every time.
Oh,
He's
wow.
never gotten used to that. Like I don't know what
Wow.
that's all about, but it's something we don't like. We used to jump when he did it, because he would be like he'd make like a noise, like not a
Yeah,
growl, but like
startled. He would be
startled.
startled,
Yeah.
yeah.
So some dogs have no issues, some dogs have minor, and some
Yeah,
dogs, depending on their experience and, if they've been abused or what they've been
yeah.
through. Um, one dog I had to work with for months when Guardians of Rescue, we were taking dogs from Korea. Some of them that were a little older, like a
Yeah,
year old, were very scared, and I would go to the shelter and sit in the cage with them and on the ground
yeah,
with food and try to get them to come to me. So you know you need patience with some of these dogs.
absolutely. And that's a good point that you make because I'm a volunteer for Humane Society International here in Canada.
Hmm.
And I did get to work with some dogs that they rescued from South Korea.
Okay.
And I'm a junior volunteer, so like they wouldn't ask us, but the senior staff that have a lot of experience, they would always go in the crate and just like sit
Yeah,
there, not touch the dog, but let the dog come
that's
to
right.
them
Yeah,
and just get the dog used to human presence and that
yeah,
it's not to be feared and to
Right.
get the dog used to having a
Trust.
calm, human presence, to learn to trust again.
Yes.
And I witnessed firsthand one of these staff members go in one of the cages, I guess more like a cage, with the dog. And she said he was one of the dogs that was most antisocial. He was very afraid of touch. He would always careen
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And I saw it firsthand. Like, she sat there and he came to her. And
Yes.
I wish I could have videotaped it, but they don't allow cameras. But I got to see it, and it was so special. Like, he came to her and she was able to pet him for the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's amazing.
That's what you want.
That's what
And
you
sometimes
want.
that takes
Yeah.
weeks, months,
Yeah.
you know?
You have to be patient. Yeah. You have to
Yeah.
be understanding that these dogs need to, first of all, decompress when they're
Yeah.
flown.
Yeah.
They arrive in a new family, new environment. They don't know that they can trust this. And, so
Yeah.
you need to be very patient. But you obviously are.
Definitely.
So Justice, he came, and like you said earlier, you didn't have the same, I guess, concerns as you did with Smiley. So he quickly fit in the family and he interacted with your dogs pretty well.
Well, yeah. It was just Smiley because,
Oh,
Teddy had
Teddy had
passed away.
passed away. That's right.
Which, by the way, Ace I had adopted from my local shelter by me volunteering there. I met Ace, and
Ah,
he was a puppy. So I don't think I answered you before when you asked me about Ace. So I just wanted to.
yes. And so Ace wasn't there when Justice came, or?
Um, no, not when Justice came. I see. It's been such a short amount of time.
Yeah, a lot of dogs.
Dogs that I have to think the year and which dog was with. No, but no, it was Smiley.
Okay, Ace
Just
passed away
Smiley.
as well, I guess.
Huh?
Did Ace pass away as well, or?
Yes. He
Uh,
did. Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And was it like cancer like Teddy, or was it something else, or?
It was like a cancer in the blood. I forget what it was called, but
Okay.
again, it was something that my holistic vet picked up and treated him with the natural prednisone for a while.
Yeah.
Actually, Ace was the first one to have it. So,
Wow. But at
yeah,
one point, I mean, he died at what age?
he was only 8 years old.
Oh.
Yeah.
You never
So,
know, eh? And some people are like so fearful of adopting a dog like from China, and they're like, oh my God, like you spend all this money because it does cost more
yeah,
than your typical dog. But
yeah,
they're like, and then he ends up dying. But I'm like, you never know, like you can pick up a dog
no,
at a shelter nearby, and he could also
yeah,
have health complications. And
yeah,
I really think the message that I hear from you is that, as long as you love and, care for this dog, whether he lives to be, 12, 15 years old or 8, as long as he dies knowing he was loved, I mean, that's the most
yeah,
important part, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and, I mean, I'm sure they're in a better place. And that's what I always say to people that lose family members, especially. I'm like, the only comfort that we can have is knowing that they are in a better place and they're no
yeah,
longer suffering, So,
yes, that's
so
true.
that's a good way of trying to make peace with that.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Justice was a little puppy, came into your life, and he's still with you because we just saw him. And
Yeah.
at this point, he's just like 2 years old, about
He
like.
just turned 3 years old.
He's so big. Is that the most he's gonna as big as he's gonna get, right? So,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think I heard, because I had a family dog growing up, and it was a Great Dane. But
Mm-hmm.
I asked a recent guest, I'm like, how like a dog will reach their full size before a year old? I think usually that's when you're.
About, yeah.
Yeah, at about a year old, that's the full matured size, if you will.
Yes.
And which is why in South Korea they usually slaughter them at about 9 months old. You know,
Yes.
so
Yes.
they've reached pretty much their full size. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so now, if we can move on to Kane, because Kane, he's the dog that was rescued from a dog meat farm closure that was done by Canine Global Rescue. I believe
Yes.
it was in April of 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
April 30th.
Because I've seen like on Facebook, Canine Global Rescue, they have a page. Obviously, they have a website. And I saw a lot of pictures from April 2019.
Yeah.
And the documentary footage also is from that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so we're going to obviously showcase a little video clip of Kane because when he was first rescued, he had...
So, all right. All right.
Heavy, fat little boy.
So we got the second one. This dog has not, from what we can tell by his paws, he's never even been on the ground.
You may want to get this, Andy. I don't know if he's ever been on the ground.
Yeah.
This is take him up. On flat ground up here.
Let's John, let's bring him up right between the vehicles and just put him down here.
No, I was gonna take him over here.
Well, we want to. I'd prefer to bring him over by a crate because if he does panic, I don't want him thrashing on the lead. Okay.
I've been with dogs that haven't been on the ground. They'll crawl if you...
Yep. Yeah. So this is this dog's first time ever on solid ground outside of a cage. He doesn't know what solid ground is. He doesn't know what the earth is. This is his first taste of freedom outside of a cage. Hey, buddy. So what you're seeing right now is literally freedom. This is the first time he's seen anything outside of his cage. This is the first time he's seen anything other than looking out. Hey, buddy. You can see how his paws are flared and how he's walking. He's got kind of frog feet. Hey, from the cages.
No.
You see how his paws are. You can see how his paws are all completely twisted and canted. He's got a Paula. He's got the same.
Yeah.
Hey, no, take. Don't let them get together because you don't know what one dog has and what the other one doesn't.
What we call frog feet. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, they nicknamed him Frogfoot because he grew up in a cage on a dog farm. So they don't walk on solid ground. It's like, hard for them to stand. So they grow like that. They grow like that, but he's got the cutest legs and feet I've ever seen in my life. I mean, yeah, they're really cute. You have pictures, so.
Yeah, but I mean, what did the oh yes, if we can get a little glimpse.
That's
my God, this is beautiful, Kane.
Let me see. Hey, come here, babe.
Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh my God. Look at that face. Do you know what kind of dog he is?
He's a Jindo. He's a brindle.
Oh, wow.
Brindle is coloring. Let me see.
He's a Jindo, but I'm used to Jindos that are white, but they have different types of Jindos.
Yes.
And the feet are still a bit of a problem, eh? So he still kind of walks like this?
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to affect him. I mean, he runs so fast.
Oh, wow.
And he runs so fast.
So it's not phasing him at all. And it's really, it's important for, I'm sure viewers know this, but dogs that are farmed for their meat in South Korea, they grow up in a wire cage. There's no flooring. And the idea is that, they're bred in those cages. They are raised in those cages. They never get a walk outside. Like, they never have any exercise. Yeah. They are very poorly fed, like they're
Yeah.
fed compost, what we call compost, like
Yeah.
food waste,
Yeah.
and not even water.
I
No
know.
water. The farmers basically add water to the mix of sludge,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
feed that twice a day. So these
That's right.
dogs are extremely malnourished.
Yes.
Often, like they have health, side effects because they're fed like stuff that they should never eat.
Yeah.
Kimchi, all this pickled stuff, garbage,
Yeah.
essentially. And so, yeah, wire cages, it's really bad for their feet. It creates a lot of sores,
Yeah.
painful sores, and it's just really horrific. Really horrific. And
Yeah.
so
Everything
Kane
about it.
luckily was rescued and he wasn't too old. I think he was just like a little puppy, right?
He was like 6 or 7 months old.
Oh,
When
okay,
he was
okay. I thought he was
rescued.
even younger than that.
Yeah. I mean, again, he could be maybe 5 months.
Okay,
That
but it
was
was not like a 2-month-old. It was like,
no,
okay,
no.
he was a little bit older.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the story of this farm? Like, how did Canine Global Rescue engage the farmer, and how did they manage to get him to,
Well, it was brought to their attention when they were on a trip there in South Korea. And Canine Global never pays for, they never pay for dogs because that's just enabling them
Yeah,
to
it's
continue.
fueling the trade, of course. Yeah. Were they able to transition the farmer into another business, or was it the case that the farmer was just like willing to give up his dogs?
Yeah, he just wanted to get rid of the dogs. And from what I understand now, there's vegetables growing in that field because Canine Global demolished it. The farm, the dog
Ah,
farm is gone permanently. And that's a beautiful thing.
yeah. Nice
Um,
vegetables instead of sentient beings being butchered up.
yeah,
Quite the transition. And do
yeah,
you know what part of South Korea that was, or
yeah, that was in Wonju.
Wonju?
Wonju.
Yeah, because I had a guest on, I think you know him well, Bob Swenson,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
actually went on that trip
yes.
and helped Canine, well, with the rescued dogs.
Yep.
And he did visit that farm, and at that point, they had planted vegetables, and it was like transformed,
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
it's beautiful region, like a very
yeah,
beautiful,
yeah,
picturesque.
yeah. And Bob met Kane.
Oh, yes, he met him. Wow. He was able to socialize him a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
And so Kane came into your life. How long did it take from? Oh, I know that you told me that at that point you were still mourning the loss of Teddy.
Smiley.
Oh, Smiley. Yes, I apologize. Smiley passed away in December of 2018. And so this was April 2019, and you were still,
Yeah,
grieving.
yeah, that took a toll on me, the loss of Smiley. Not that the others didn't, but because of what Smiley symbolized to me, I
Yeah.
had to, digest a lot. But with his loss, it doesn't mean the end of helping other dogs.
Yeah.
So, um, I didn't think I was ready for another dog at the time, but you know, here's now 48 more dogs that need homes
Uh,
that are in South Korea that were rescued from being slaughtered, tortured. And so I again, talked about it with my husband, but
but how did you hear about this farm closure? Were you already familiar with Canine Global Rescue?
I volunteer with Canine Global. So
Oh,
I heard about it directly from that, of course, from
yes.
John. So,
And when you say volunteer, have you made the trip yourself, or in what capacity do you volunteer?
well, I may in the future make the trip.
Yeah.
That's again another big thing, to do. But
Oh, yes. A little bit scary because
Mhm.
I would like to make the trip myself because ever since I heard about the cause, it's been all consuming. a bit like
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and you just want to find all the ways that you can make a difference. And I feel that it's important to, especially me, doing the podcast and all, I've learned a lot, interviewing
Mhm.
people that are on the ground that can tell me what's going on. But it's another thing to experience it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think you cannot buy that kind of experience. You certainly can't get it on social media. And it's something
No,
that
no.
I think it would be a life enriching experience. It might be difficult. It's not going to be a glamorous trip by any means.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
going to be hard. But, like we talked about with Bob, for people that are thinking of volunteering and making that trip, rest assured that K9 Global Rescue or whatever organization you're volunteering for, they will never put you in harm's way. They will never expose you to, cruelty if you don't want to. Like you don't need
Right.
to be on the farm and seeing dogs being slaughtered.
Exactly.
Your
Right.
job is more to take care of the dogs that were rescued and to socialize them and to learn
Yeah.
a little bit more, what the
Yeah.
situation is in those countries.
Mhm.
So yeah, so as scary as it is, it doesn't have to be that scary.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No. I mean, Canine Global, what I would do for them is whatever they need me to do, whatever,
share
interview
posts. Yeah.
adopters, the applications for adopters, making sure
Mm.
that, people are connected to the right dog, um,
There's a lot that goes on. Yeah, it's not
it is
just
a lot. There's always something that you could help with.
yeah.
So,
So if
yeah.
people are interested, Kane Global Rescue, we'll post the links also. For the show, we'll post like Save Korean Dogs, Kane Global Rescue. If anyone's interested in maybe, adopting, volunteering, we'll have the links and you can go get some information. So Kane, at this point, he's well adapted to your family. He came at JFK once again. Were you there to greet him, or this time around?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He,
yes,
so
definitely. Yeah, me and my husband went, and you know, it was he was scared, but he did good. He really did.
and so by the time they closed the farm, or they were able to get those dogs from South Korea, it was April. But by the time they flew here, what was it? A month
July.
later? Or?
Yeah, it was July 2nd.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
they had been there in South Korea. I don't think Bob stayed that long, but I guess
No.
they were being cared for by K9 Global Rescue for all those months.
Yeah, they were being boarded, so they were being
Ah,
taken care of, getting their vet care.
yes,
He got neutered there, so it takes some time,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
to stabilize their health. I mean, you can't fly a dog that's sick, obviously,
Right.
so it
Yeah.
does take some time.
Yeah.
So he arrived in July, right in time for the summer.
July 2nd. Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice time, to get a dog because you have to take them out, teach them to go out,
Absolutely. And
So,
get a routine going. And
yeah.
I don't know if K9 does this, but some other rescue groups, they get them used to a routine, like,
Oh, yeah.
they feed them at 8 o'clock in the morning, they take them for a walk at
Yeah.
this time. And so it's always good when they share that information with you, because you can keep up the same routine and make the dog feel more at ease, more
Yeah.
safe, I imagine. And
Yeah.
so at this point, you have your family consists now of your furry family consists of Kane, Justice, and
That's it.
okay for now.
For
Knowing
now.
you, you're gonna have another one.
Yeah, probably.
And at this point, I would like to take this opportunity, because you have a lot of experience adopting a survivor. And for people at home that are thinking about it and that have concerns, what would you say are the top things that prospective families should consider before opening their homes to a survivor, like from the dog meat trade? Um, I guess if they have other pets, whether their pets are good with other dogs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot, there's a lot to consider. First you have to realize it's a serious decision. It's a big responsibility, and everybody has to be on board.
Yeah.
Before
with no exception.
Yeah, exactly. And then, to the best of your ability, pick a rescue that you could trust and that is doing the right thing, because mistakes, can tie things up, whether it be at the airport, transporting, whatever it might be. Also, you want to make sure you're getting the dog that you're being told you're getting the dog,
Yes. No surprises.
Right. Like if you have a cat, it's important to know that, the dog that's coming isn't going to tear apart the cat. Like you have to test to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So that it fits, it's, harmonious in your home.
Yes, absolutely. And some dogs don't like cats, or vice versa. Some cats can't take dogs. So, I mean, it's a decision that you have to weigh carefully. You have to consider many factors. And one of them is certainly, I guess, a lot of people are concerned about the health aspect. And so that's where a trusted rescue organization comes in. Yeah. So someone that's going to be honest and transparent with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that have gone through all the medical vetting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, those are the important things, that everybody's on board, and that the rescue you're working with, you feel pretty confident in, and you trust. And you have to be willing to work with the dog, because you might not get a perfect dog. No. You might get a dog that needs more patience than you've ever given before. Yeah. The time and understanding, just that you might have issues that you have to deal with the dog, and
unforeseen issues. Mm-hmm. And I would say, because, myself, I have this goal of adopting a survivor. And before the pandemic, it was always a question of my job, like I'm outside, I'm in an office all day, and I felt like I would have to take a sabbatical or something, because you don't want to bring a dog in that's been so traumatized and leave him at home alone, obviously. Some people might have a family member that's close by that's available, so they could help transition them. But that's another area of consideration.
But and let me just say that many of the dogs they're fine. They are resilient. Dogs are like, they forget about.
They are amazing. It's amazing. Their ability to forgive, like the humans that abuse them, is pretty astonishing. I know for one, I would never forgive. We humans, we hold grudges, but dogs, somehow they bounce back very quickly. And so it depends on the dog. And so that's why it's so important to have someone that you trust, that you work with, and that's going to be honest and fully transparent about the dog's behavior, what they've noticed, all these things are super important. Yeah. And I guess some of the common things to expect from a dog that's been so traumatized, I mean, you seem to have had not too many big issues apart from Smiley being, having heartworm. Did you notice anything that was like a nervous anxiety behavior? More with Kane, I guess.
Well,
he was the
separation anxiety. They all have. I mean, Smiley had it once they felt comfortable here. Yeah. They don't like when, mostly me, when I leave the house. They
have separation anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Kane's not so bad. Smiley was, he would pant and wait for me, and Justice does the same. He lays right by the front door. But they're not, they're just nothing major bad. With them, it's a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
They're all very healthy minded.
And something I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this because, it depends on the rescue and all that. But in terms of cost, like what are people looking at? Because flying a dog from a foreign country across the ocean, and it tells higher costs than going to your local shelter, I imagine. Can you talk about an average cost?
With the flight volunteer, if you're lucky enough to find one, it's going to cost maybe $300, and some maybe fees, $50 fees, at the airport. But if you don't have a flight volunteer, it's more expensive based on the weight of the dog too.
Absolutely.
The size of the dog and the crate and everything. So it could range from $600 to $900,
Yeah, it depends on the rescue organization, but that's something I've learned by doing the podcast is that flight volunteers are so they're a huge help.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
I think they cut the cost in half in some instances. From China, I had Animal Hope and Wellness China Shelter, Sukisu, and Dr. Barbara Jennifer Gitlitz, and she's on the board of directors at Animal Hope and Wellness Foundation here in California. But they said how important it was to have flight volunteers. And Bob Swenson, that I had on the podcast, he was a flight volunteer for Soy Dog. And it's great. Like, if you're someone who travels a lot, it's so great. It's such an easy way to help because you can just apply and say, listen, I'm going to be, flying back from China on this date if you have a dog, and you have nothing to do.
Exactly.
I mean, they will bring you the dog. The dog's already in the crate. You just have to say, "This is my dog," and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to help.
It makes it easier for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the costs are not that daunting. I mean, frankly, I would spend upwards of thousands of dollars, frankly, to have that experience of transforming a life. I mean, this is not your typical situation. These dogs have suffered greatly, and if you can find it in your heart and you have the means, because there is a certain amount of like income that you need because these dogs might have health complications, so you might need to visit the vet office a little bit more often, but in some cases not. So it's really
majority of them have not. I mean, heartworm was sometimes the dog would get the heartworm in South Korea, and they would treat the dog there and it would be fine. Smiley was an exception where he got,
it was not detected in South Korea.
Yeah, and he developed the chronic
bronchitis from it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how long he had the heartworm either. So the longer you have it, the more damage it does.
Absolutely. I guess we're gonna have to let you go at this point. We've been talking for a little bit, and I do appreciate your time so much. And we will obviously be incorporating all these beautiful pictures you sent me of your beautiful dogs. And I just have maybe one final question for you, because you've been doing this, you've been a volunteer, you've been an adopter, you have a large network at this point built up of rescue organizations and people that are involved. And so I was wondering if you had a guest suggestion for me, because my podcast is primarily on the dog cat meat trade at this point. Eventually, maybe we'll tackle other animal welfare issues, but for now, I really, the whole focus is education. And be it a nonprofit that you think I should have on the podcast, or a person that's been implicated as a volunteer or an activist. Do you have anyone that you think should be on the podcast and that could teach us a little bit more?
Well, I think anybody I would recommend to you, you've already talked to. I mean, You know, you've interviewed John, right?
Yes, John of Kane Global Rescue. I did. It was my second podcast after Andy Abrahams Wilson, who's the director of Dog
Right.
War.
Yeah, he's another one who I
But
would have
yes,
said.
you're right that I did. When I started this podcast, I wasn't sure if anyone would speak to me because I'm a unknown person. I'm not a celebrity by any means, and the podcast was the first. Like it was my first experience
that's
doing any kind of
awesome.
podcast. But I think a lot of people were willing to talk because it is the first and only. To this day, is the only podcast on the dog cat meat trade. And I was surprised because the whole reason why I started the podcast is I was looking for information, and I found a great way to learn is to listen to podcasts. I listened to podcasts on yoga, and I said, there must be something on this. So I was searching iTunes, like everywhere, could not find anything.
Wow.
And so I think the fact that I was saying it's the first and only podcast on the dog cat meat trade, a lot of organizations that are internationally known, like Soy Dog, I had John Daly from Soy Dog, I had Jill Robinson from Animals Asia. I've had many people because they felt, well, yeah, sure, let's be part of the conversation. And it's a great way to highlight the work that they do. But at this stage, I've actually started focusing more on smaller organizations that people might not have heard of. And so one of my future guests is actually going to be Furry Angels Haven of Wuhan, which is a nonprofit in Wuhan, where the COVID-19 came from.
Yeah.
And so they're doing great work. It's headed by an American and a local Chinese. And so I'm always curious anyways, we are in touch. So if you come up with something or someone that you think would benefit viewers, because the whole idea is to share information, let me know.
All right.
And I thank you so much, Annmarie. You've been so generous with your time, and more importantly, I thank you for what you are doing. You are such a great advocate for the cause. You volunteer, you share, you're very open and generous with your time, and you're a fine example of what we can do over here to help the dogs and cats over there. And we're not as powerless as we think we are.
That's right. And I want to say thank you to you for doing the podcast. Thank you for bringing attention to it, because that's huge. Like you said, you're not a famous person or a celebrity. We don't want them. We need people. We need everyday people with everyday story. No, and I don't mean that. We need everybody.
Yeah, we need everybody.
Everybody who will be a voice. We need them. And to people who might say, if I might add this, I think it's an important point. To people who might say, why would you adopt a dog from Korea when you could go right down the block to your local shelter and adopt a dog?
Yeah.
I have a couple of answers to that.
Go ahead.
I'll use them. Number one, I have adopted dogs locally.
Yeah.
Number two, you could do both.
Yeah.
Number three, the dogs at the shelter are far better off than the dogs in South Korea.
Yeah.
I have learned, the first time I volunteered at a shelter, I walked in and cried because there were dogs in cages. This is 10 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
But when I heard about this, I didn't forget about those dogs.
No.
I still help locally, but I also help on the other side of the world as well, where I feel it's needed more and most. And at the same time, we can all do our part in our local area. We could try to get laws changed.
Yeah.
We could volunteer. We could do both. So that's really not a legitimate point. And then what I would say to the person that says that too is, what are you doing in your local area to help the shelter dogs?
Yes, thank you. Because often
And
the
sometimes
criticism
they're-
comes from people that do nothing, right? Like they're
right.
not doing anything.
Sometimes that'll end the conversation right there. You know?
I like that. That's a great answer. And I will second that or, corroborate with that because I did ask that question to Suki Su, who's she's the director of the Animal Hope and Wellness China shelter.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to answer it because I've had the criticism myself. Many people in Montreal, they were like, why spend all this money flying a dog from China when you could spend that money and help more dogs over there, get them adopted over there? And I asked her, why do you feel it's important to adopt dogs out to the US, to foreign countries, out of China? And she said they would not be safe. They would not be safe in that country because, first of all, there's no animal welfare laws.
Right.
We can say what we will about our own laws, but at least we have some protection laws. And she said also it's in China especially, there's something called dog napping, and it happens every day. People are thirsty for money. And they know that if they can steal a dog, they can get $50 or something.
Yeah.
And they do it all the time. They steal people's pets. They steal dogs that are on the streets.
Yeah.
And so she's like, that's why I would not feel safe at all keeping a dog in China. And, things will improve. Hopefully, we're close to having China pass some animal welfare laws. Hopefully, we'll see the day. And at that point, maybe it will be possible. But until then, it's something that you can do. And we have a lot of wealth and resources over here in North America, Canada, US is a huge country. And so if you can do both, why not,
Yeah, and not everybody can even donate. Not everybody even has the money to donate. And what I say is, share a post.
Yes.
If all you can do is share a post,
that's already something.
Because it only takes one person. We need one person for that one dog. And if the right person sees it, maybe it could come from your share. So I try to help people to not feel helpless about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people feel like I can't do anything.
Yes.
Compare what one person does to what they can do or not do. And, anything you do, walk about it,
Every little step is a step closer to finding an end to this atrocity. And I do hope I see it in my lifetime. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so focused on ending this dog-cat meat trade. As opposed to other causes. And I do support other animal welfare causes, of course. I'm vegan. I've been vegan for most of my life. But the reason why I'm fighting so hard for this is that it's something that's viable. I think, like dog-cat meat trade doesn't exist anywhere else but in that part of the continent, Asia, Pacific. It's very specific, and dogs and cats are considered companion animals in most of the world. And so I think we can get there. Whereas I don't see a vegan world in my lifetime. I'm sorry, like as much as I would like it, it's unlikely. It's unlikely to change because that's a global issue. It's in every country there's an animal agriculture industry. Whereas there's no dog-cat meat trade in Canada and the US. I mean, properly speaking, not as a whole. I mean, there are isolated incidents, but as a trade, it doesn't exist anywhere else. And so I'm hopeful that we will see the end. And,
Well, I'll tell you, Canine Global Rescue is on a mission to end the dog meat.
Amazing organization.
We're at the the root of the problem and looking to end it. In the interim, adopt out some dogs, yes. But their goal is to end the dog meat trade. So I would say to anyone supporting Canine Global Rescue is a huge part for someone
the solution.
to be part of because they're active, in doing so, and these are former combat veterans who don't mess around.
I know.
They're on a mission, so I'm going to support their mission, and
And and more importantly, they're super honest, transparent. They're genuine. They love dogs from in their hearts, and they want to see the end. So yeah, absolutely support Canine Global Rescue, and we'll have the links in the description box below. So absolutely, that's a great way.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Annmarie. I'm so glad I got to know you. I think we'll keep the conversation going. And like I say, drop me a line if you think of someone that would be a good guest.
I will. Okay, you got it.
All right. Thank you, Annmarie.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.